Welcome, family. Peace to the 12 tribes of Yasharal scattered abroad. The subject of this video is divine remarriage, renewal of vows. In a previous video, I discussed Hebrew marriage customs. The ancient Hebrews followed a particular process of marriage. There was the agreement between the families. Then the ketubah was presented. Then the betrothal period. The bride price given. A marriage chamber made for the wife-to-be. Messengers sent to bring the wife-to-be to her new home. A marriage feast and consummation of the marriage. We're also going to look at how the process of marriage is reflected in the appointed times, or the moadi, the set-apart convocations, or makrai kudash, and the feasts, or the chagim. So in the previous video we talked about how the nation of Yasharal was divided into two houses, the house of Yehuda and the house of Yasharal. The Most High gave the house of Yasharal a bill of divorcement. Yeshayahu chapter 50. Thus said Yahuwah, of what kind is your mother's bill of divorcement, by which I put her away? Or to which debtor have I sold you? Behold, you are sold for your sins, and for your iniquities have I put your mother away. Yirmiyahu or Jeremiah chapter 3. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Yasharal committed adultery, I had put her away, and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Yehuda feared not, but went and played the harlot also. Husha or Hosea chapter 2. Plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts. So this is the issue that Yahushua HaMashiach is coming to deal with in the so-called New Testament. This is what the Basor or the Gospel is concerned with. Now I just want to touch on the fact that the messenger Yahuwah was always the being that Yasharal was dealing with from the beginning, even from the time of our father Abraham. It was the messenger Yahuwah who was the husband of the nation of Yasharal. It was not the father Yahuwah that was the husband of the nation of Yasharal. So we want to make that clear, that the messenger Yahuwah was the one that made the covenants with the nation of Yasharal. It was the messenger Yahuwah who ate the marriage feast with Moshe and Aharon and the 70 elders on top of the mountain. That's why it was necessary for the messenger Yahuwah to come to earth in a human body so that he could redeem his bride. Matthew chapter 9. Then came to him the disciples of Yehochanan, saying, Why do we and the Pharisee fast oft, but your disciples fast not? And Yahushua said unto them, Can the children of the bride chamber mourn, as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come, when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. Yahushua HaMashiach is clearly identifying himself in the role of the husband, the bridegroom. Yehuchanan chapter 3. And they came unto Yehuchanan and said unto him, Rabbi, he that was with you beyond Jordan, to whom you bear witness, behold, the same baptizes, and all men come to him. Yehuchanan answered and said, A man can receive nothing except it be given him from heaven. You yourselves bear me witness that I said, I am not the Mashiach, but that I am sent before him. He that has the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom which stands and hears him rejoices greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This my joy therefore is fulfilled. So Yehuchanan identified Yahushua as the husband, as the bridegroom. The bride is the nation of Yasharal. Malach Yahuwah, or the messenger Yahuwah, came in human form through the house of Yehuda. The house of Yehuda still had the first covenant, while the house of Yasharal was cut off from the covenant because of the bill of divorce. As Yahushua HaMashiach, he gave his life. He died on the stake. And when he died on the stake, he moved the bill of divorcement out of the way. So in his resurrection, the renewed covenant could be offered to the house of Yehuda and the house of Yasharal. Ephesians chapter 2. For he is our peace, who has made both one, and has broken down the middle wall of partition between us, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to make in himself of twain one new man, so making peace, and that he might reconcile both unto Elohim in one body by the stake, having slain the enmity thereby. So making the two one. Where was that prophesied? That was prophesied in the prophets, Yirmiyahu chapter 31, that he would make the houses of Yehuda and Yasharal one nation again. Colossians chapter 2, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his stake. What did he blot out? He blotted out the bill of divorcement. Yehuchanan chapter 4, you worship you know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Yahudim. So the Yahudim were to go out with the new covenant, the news of the new covenant, to the scattered house of Yasharal, those that were scattered among the nations. Matthew or Matthew chapter 10. But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Yasharal. Yahushua clearly told his students, his disciples, to go to the Israelites who were of the house of Yasharal, those that were cut off from the covenant. So you have the house of Yehuda, commonly called the Jews, or circumcision, or those that are nigh. And you have the house of Yasharal, commonly called Gentiles, or uncircumcision, or those that are afar. The Yahudim, or the Jews, were given the mission to spread the news, spread the Besorah to the Israelites of the house of Yashrael. Matthew or Matthew chapter 10. These 12 Yahusha sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter you not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Yashrael. And as you go, preach, saying, The kingdom of heaven is at hand. So again, this was the commission given to the disciples of Yahushua HaMashiach. Matthew chapter 15. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Yashrael. Chapter 18. For the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. So we see here clearly Yahusha defining his own mission. Yahusha was not confused about the reason he came to earth. He came for the lost sheep of the house of Yashrael. And he came to save that which was lost, the house of Yashrael. Yehukanan chapter 10. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. So the other sheep is the house of Yashrael. They were not of the fold of the house of Yehuda. And he wanted the two folds, the house of Yehuda and the house of Yashrael, to become one fold, one nation, as was prophesied by the prophets. Yehukanan, or John chapter 21. So when they had dined, Yahusha said unto Shimeon Kepha, Shimeon, son of Yuna, love you me more than these? He said unto him, Yes, Rabbi, you know that I love you. He said unto him, Feed my lambs. He said to him again the second time, Shimeon, son of Yuna, love you me? He said unto him, Yes, Rabbi, you know that I love you. He said unto him, Feed my sheep. He said unto him the third time, Shimeon, son of Yuna, love you me? Kepha was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Love you me? And he said unto him, Rabbi, you know all things. You know that I love you. Yahusha said unto him, Feed my sheep. So Yahusha made it clear to Kepha or Peter that he wanted him to feed his sheep. Who are the sheep of Yahusha? We go to Acts chapter 2, where Kepha or Peter makes his great speech at Pentecost, or the Feast of Shavuot in Jerusalem. Therefore let all the house of Yashrael know assuredly that Elohim has made the same Yahusha whom you have crucified, both Master and Mashiach. So we see that Yahusha commissioned Kepha or Peter to feed his sheep. And you see that when the Ruach HaKodesh, the set-apart spirit, was poured upon the disciples in Jerusalem, what did Kepha speak to the crowd? Therefore let all the house of Yashrael know assuredly. Who was he speaking to? To whom did Yahusha come to save? This is what we need to understand when we read the so-called New Testament. the message is consistent. The mission was to reach the Israelites of the house of Yasharal, that they may return to the covenant of Yah. So we have the ketubah, or the covenant. Yirmiyahu, or Jeremiah chapter 31. Behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Yasharal and with the house of Yehudah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they broke, although I was a husband unto them, says Yahuwah. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Yasharal. After those days, says Yahuwah, I will put my Torah in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. So you see clearly that both covenants, the first covenant and the new covenant, are with the houses of Yasharal and with the houses of Yehudah. And we see in 33, this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Yasharal. Why does he focus on the house of Yasharal? Because the house of Yasharal was a house that was divorced. And he declares that he's going to renew the covenant with that house. Verse 34, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahuwah. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, says Yahuwah. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. So this is part of the covenant that we're looking forward to being renewed. And it's clear at this point in time that this has not been fulfilled yet. What we have is a promise of a new covenant. Luke chapter 22. And he took bread and gave thanks and broke it, and gave unto them, saying, This is my body, which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me. Matthew chapter 26. And he took the cup and gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, Drink you all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. So here we have the blood of the New Testament. The word testament comes from the Greek diatheke, which is more commonly translated as covenant. So this is the blood of the new covenant. So let's look at the first covenant, Shemot, or Exodus chapter 24. And he took the book of the covenant and read it in the audience of the people. And they said, All that Yahuwah has said will we do, and be obedient. And Moshe took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, Behold, the blood of the covenant which Yahuwah has made with you concerning all these words. So we see at the first covenant, there's the blood, and with the renewed covenant, the blood. It's the same covenant, the same commandments, the same expectations. It's only being renewed. Why does it need to be renewed? Because the nation broke the covenant. Yah did not break the covenant. Ibrim, or Hebrews chapter 8. For now has he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. So that word better is from the Greek kreiton, which means stronger. Again, covenant from the Greek diatheke, the same word that was translated in Matthew as testament. So the renewed covenant is a stronger covenant. Romans chapter 9. Who are Israelites, to whom pertains the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the Torah and the service of Elohim and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Mashiach came, who is over all, Elohim blessed forever. Amen. So we see that the covenant, the first covenant and the renewed covenant, pertain to the Israelites. Again, we see in Romans chapter 9 verse 5 that Mashiach came for the Israelites. So the ketubah, the marriage contract, is a marriage contract between the messenger Yahuwah, Melech Yahuwah, who is Yahushua HaMashiach, and the nation of Yashrael. Hebrews chapter 8. For finding fault with them, he said, Behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Yashrael and with the house of Yehudah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, says Yahuwah. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Yashrael. After those days, says Yahuwah, I will put my Torah in their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them an Elohim, and they shall be to me a people. So again, in the so-called New Testament, we have a quote from Jeremiah, and it clearly states, again, that the new covenant has to do with the house of Yashrael and the house of Yehudah, but particularly with the house of Yashrael. And we see that there was no problem with the first covenant. The only problem with the first covenant was that the people did not keep it. That was the problem. There's nothing faulty about the first covenant. The fault was with the people. So with the new covenant, it's still the same laws, statutes, and commandments. There's nothing faulty in the covenant itself. So as Israelites, we are called to be faithful to the ketubah, the covenant, the marriage contract. And by the seal of his Ruach HaKodesh, his set-apart spirit, he puts his commandments, his Torah, into our mind and writes them in our hearts. The sign that we have the Ruach HaKodesh, the sign that we have the set-apart spirit, is our obedience to his commandments. Verse 11, And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahuwah, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he said, A new covenant, he has made the first old. Now that which decays and waxes old is ready to vanish away. He did not write that the first covenant has vanished. He said it is getting ready to vanish away. It will be replaced by the renewed covenant. So we have the first covenant and the new covenant. And when the new covenant comes into play, then the first covenant becomes old. The new covenant is not a different covenant. It is a renewed covenant. It's the same laws, commands, and statutes. So, Hebrews 8 verse 8, finding fault with them. the fault was with the people, with the Israelites that were disobedient. That was the problem with the first covenant. Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 32, which my covenant they broke. Okay, so there was no fault in the covenant itself. The Torah of Yahuwah is perfect. So we have the renewed covenant. Hebrews chapter 8, verse 6, a better or stronger covenant. In verse 10, I will put my Torah in their mind and write them in their hearts. So he gives us his Ruach HaKodesh, his set-apart spirit, to lead us into truth. His Torah is truth. The set-apart spirit leads us, enables us to obey his laws and statutes and commandments. So just like the moon, we talk about the new moon and an old moon. It's the same moon. It just goes through a process of being renewed. The same thing with the first covenant and the renewed covenant. It's the same covenant. It's just being renewed. And in fact, the renewed covenant is empowered, it's stronger, because he gives us his Ruach HaKodesh, his Holy Spirit, to empower us, to give us his Torah, to write it in our hearts and minds, so that we are empowered to obey him. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. After the same manner he took the cup when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament, or covenant, in my blood. This do you, as oft as you drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Master's death till he come. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Master unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Master. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. So this is what most people don't understand about the Thanksgiving, commonly called the Eucharist or Communion. This is a marriage proposal. In Hebrew custom, when a man desired to marry a woman, first he would get permission from the woman's father. Then he would write a ketubah. He would present that ketubah, that marriage covenant, with all his rules and expectations for his family and marriage, and present it to the woman with a cup of wine. The woman would read through the ketubah, and if she accepted all the man's rules and regulations and expectations for marriage, she would then drink the cup of wine, symbolizing that she accepts the ketubah. She accepts the marriage contract presented to her by the man. So when we take the Thanksgiving, we take the Eucharist or communion, we are saying that we are agreeing to the ketubah that has been presented to us. What is the ketubah? The covenant, the laws and statutes and commands of Yah that were given to the nation of Yasharal. So in verse 27, wherefore whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Master unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Master. So if you partake in Thanksgiving, the Eucharist, communion, you partake of the bread and the wine with no intention of keeping the commandments of Yah, you're partaking of his body and blood in an unworthy manner. You're saying yes to being married to the Messiah, but you have no intention of keeping his ketubah, his marriage contract. That's why Shaul or Paul says in 28, let a man examine himself. Have you committed yourself to obeying the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yah? If not, don't accept the marriage proposal. You'll be eating and drinking judgment upon yourself. Just as a woman who accepts the marriage proposal, yet then goes out and commits adultery, would be guilty of a deadly sin. In a Hebraic marriage process, after the woman accepts the ketubah, the woman and the man are considered betrothed from that time forward. Hosea or Hosea chapter 1. Yet the number of the children of Yasharal shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, You are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, You are the sons of the living Elohim. Then shall the children of Yehudah and the children of Yasharal be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Yasharal. So again, talking about Yehudah and Yasharal coming together into one nation. So we see that in the place where it was said unto them, You are not my people, when the house of Yasharal received a bill of divorcement, they became not a people. There shall be said unto them, You are the sons of the living Elohim. Why? Because of the renewal of the covenant. The bill of divorcement was taken out of the way by the death of Yahushua HaMashiach. Verse 16. And it shall be at that day, says Yahuwah, that you shall call me Ishi or Aishi, and shall call me no more Baali. For I will take away the names of the Baalim out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely. At the time of this recording, we are in the betrothal period. This is your chance to accept the marriage proposal as Israelites scattered abroad. This is our chance to come into a relationship with Yahushua HaMashiach. This is the time to accept the proposal before he comes. Verse 19, And I will betroth you unto me forever. Yes, I will betroth you unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and in loving kindness, and in mercies. I will even betroth you unto me in faithfulness, and you shall know Yahuwah. And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them which were not my people, You are my people. And they shall say, You are my Aliyim. So again, them that were not a people. When the house of Yasharal received a bill of divorce, they became not a people. They lost their name, because the name Yasharal is a covenant name. Yashrual was a name given to them by Malach Yahuwah. And when the house of Yashrual was divorced, they lost the name Yashrual. This is the Besorah. This is the good news. This is why Yahushua came. He came to seek that which was lost. He came to bring the house of Yashrual back into covenant. Romans chapter 8. For you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. Verse 23. Not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. So he's talking about the adoption. So who does the adoption pertain to? Let's go to chapter 9. Who are Israelites? To whom pertains the adoption? When a woman is married to a man, that woman is adopted into the man's family. The adoption pertains to the Israelites because the marriage covenant is with the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel is adopted into the family of Yah. Galatians chapter 4. To redeem them that were under law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. Ephesians chapter 1. Having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Yahushua HaMashiach to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. So we understand that Shaul or Paul is the author of Romans, Galatians, and Ephesians. And he made it clear in Romans that adoption pertains to the Israelites. So wherever you see adoption, he is talking about Israelites. Israelites are adopted into the family of Yah when they accept the ketubah, they accept the marriage proposal, they become betrothed and are considered the property of Yahushua HaMashiach. In the Hebraic marriage system, a bride price is given by the bridegroom to the bride's father for her virginity. Jeremiah chapter 31. Hear the word of Yahuwah, O you nations, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say, He that scattered Yashrual will gather him, and keep him as a shepherd does his flock. For Yahuwah has redeemed Jacob, and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. So we see ransomed, a bride price is given for the nation of Yashrual. Acts chapter 20. Take heed therefore unto yourselves, and to all the flock, over the which the Ruach HaKodesh, or set-apart spirit, has made you overseers, to feed the assembly of Elohim, which he has purchased with his own blood. So again, we see a price has been paid. Yahushua paid a price for his bride. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. For you are bought with a price, therefore esteem Elohim in your body and in your spirit, which belong to Elohim. Chapter 7. You are bought with a price. Be not you the servants of men. So again, who was bought with a price? The bride is bought with a price. The bride is the nation of Yasharal. Yashayahu, or Isaiah chapter 11. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Yasharal, and gather together the dispersed of Yehuda from the four corners of the earth. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Yehuda shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehuda, and Yehuda shall not vex Ephraim. Ephesians chapter 2. That he might reconcile both unto Elohim in one body by the stake, having slain the enmity thereby. So this was the whole endgame, to bring the houses of Yehuda and Yasharal back into one nation again. So we have the two sisters, the house of Yehuda, commonly called the Jews, and the house of Yasharal, commonly called the Gentiles. When they accept the marriage proposal, they return to the covenant. Romans chapter 11. And if some of the branches were broken off, and you being a wild olive tree were grafted in among them, and with them partake of the root and fatness of the olive tree. So Shaul in Romans is talking to those that return from the house of Yasharal. They're coming from the wild olive tree and graft into the house of Yehuda. We see that Yah wants the two houses to become one. The kingdom of Yasharal, one body. We see that in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and Ephesians chapter 2 and chapter 4. And this is what Yahushua HaMashiach is returning for. He's going to gather all the people and reestablish the kingdom of Yasharal. Ezekiel chapter 37. Say unto them, Thus says Adonai Yahuwah, Behold, I will take the stick of Yusuf, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Yasharal his fellows, and will put them with him, even the stick of Yehuda, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And say unto them, Thus says Adonai Yahuwah, Behold, I will take the children of Yasharal from among the heathen, where they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Yasharal. And one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. So again, this is what was prophesied, and this is what Yahushua came to provide a way for this to happen. And this is why he's coming back again, to fulfill everything that has been written concerning himself and the nation of Yasharal. Verse 24. And Daud my servant shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. Again, he will put his Torah in our hearts and minds. That is the role of the Ruach HaKodesh, the set-apart spirit. Verse 25, And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they, and their children, and their children's children forever. And my servant Daud shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yes, I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. So when we look at the process of marriage in Hebraic culture, we have the agreement between the families, the ketubah or covenant, the betrothal, and the bride price. These things have been fulfilled by Yahushua HaMashiach. So now we are waiting for the marriage chamber, the messengers, the marriage feast, and the consummation. Likewise, when we look at the Moedim, the appointed times, and the feast days, when we accept the Thanksgiving, that's the Eucharist or the communion, that's the marriage proposal, we go to the Passover sacrifice. The same time that the lambs of the Passover were being sacrificed is the same time that Yahushua HaMashiach was nailed to the stake. The Feast of Unleavened Bread, the first fruits of barley, that Yahushua HaMashiach rose from the dead, of first fruits from the dead. The Feast of Weeks, Pentecost, Shavuot, the first fruits of wheat, where we had the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh, the set-apart Spirit, to empower us to keep the covenant, to empower us to walk in the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yah. So now we're waiting for the fulfillments. The Day of Trumpets or shouting, the Day of Atonement, the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, which is the first fruits of the grapes, and the 8th Assembly. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Bind up the testimony, seal the Torah among my disciples. Shalom, family. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. Like, comment, and share.